Hey guys, welcome back to the studio for another lesson. This week, we're going to be looking into how we can use Barry Harris's rules for chromaticism in a way that emphasizes the forward motion that's typical to the bebop sound. To do this, we'll first learn a scale outline to the standard Just Friends. Once we have an understanding of how that outline and the harmony of the tune function, we'll get into applying the different rules for chromaticism when played off the beat. I'll take you through a couple of different ways of playing through the changes like this so you can see just how much of an impact that starting a line on different parts of the beat can actually make. Finally, we'll wrap up the lesson with an etude over the changes that makes use of everything we've been learning so you can see how this all comes together once you put some time into it. You guys ready? Grab your guitar and let's get started. I taught you guys that you can create a scale outline over pretty much any set of changes. I think this is a super important part of the process when you're learning to improvise or when you're trying to find new pathways through a familiar set of chords. The key thing when doing this is to simplify the chord changes so that we're really only playing the essential information and getting to the core of what the harmony of the tune is. Before we get into the meat of today's lesson, I think it's important that you guys learn this outline over the changes to Just Friends, so that your ears are more attuned to what that essential harmony sounds like. Check out the outline, and then we'll break it down together. If you've been learning from me here at the studio for a while now, you've probably got a decent idea of where a lot of these scale choices are coming from. Now, just so we're all on the same page though, let's dig in a little deeper and I'll explain how the outline works in depth. Over B flat major 7, I'll play B flat major up and down, since the chord lasts for 2 measures. Then over this backdoor 2-5 that takes us to F major, I'll play E flat 7, up and down to the third of a C. Then F major 7 just gets an F major scale. And again, since it's a 2-measure chord change, we'll play it up and down. And over this next 2-5 in the key of G flat, I'll just play the scale for the dominant. And once again, since it lasts for 2 bars, we'll play it both up and down. Then the 2-5 in the home key, I'll play C7 up and down. Now here, both F major and D minor 7 are functioning as tonic chords, so I'll just play F major up and down. And this long stretch of G7 can also be looked at as a long 2-5, so I'll treat it the same way I would any other such change and play the scale for the dominant up and down. And to round out the first 16 bars, we'll play C7 up and F7 up. The second half of the tune gets the same exact treatment up until this 2-5 in the relative minor. Over that change, I'll play C7 descending from the 7th to the 3rd of an A. Then over tonic minor, I'll play D minor 6 diminished, ascending to the 6th. And to wrap the tune up, we've got G7 going up, C7 up, F major up, and then F7 down for some nice voice leading. Remember, this isn't the only way to structure an outline for these changes. I just think this one that I've shown you really gets to the core of the harmony in this tune. Now let's move on and see how we can apply Barry Harris's scale rules to these changes in a way that emphasizes forward motion. When you listen to solos by the bebop masters, you'll quickly notice just how many phrases tend to start on the upbeat. Or if they do happen to start on a downbeat, it'll usually be on a weak beat, like 2 or 4. Now, doing this can give improvised lines the sense that they're moving forward. When it comes to practicing this way of playing in a way that's methodical and structured, I think we should turn our attention towards Barry Harris's rules for descending scale lines. We've spent a lot of time studying these rules in various capacities here at the studio, but we haven't yet dissected practicing them off the upbeats. I've mentioned that when you do this, the opposite rule applies as opposed to starting on the downbeat. For example, if we start on the downbeat and run down a major scale from the third, you'd usually use either the 1 or the 3/2 step rule. If we start on the upbeat, though, and run down from the same note, we'd need to use the rules for non-chord tones, which are to use either no half steps or 2 half steps between 2 and 1 and 6 and 5. Now check out this exercise where we'll run through the changes, applying the rules when starting on the root of each scale. Now see if you can clock which rule is getting used where, and where I have to mix them since I'm going across a couple of measures. Also, pay close attention to the slur indications and how I'm achieving that sound with right and left hand articulation. Here's the exercise now. Even though we're just running scales and applying some pretty simple rules to them, I think the bones of some great lines are already there if we dig just a little bit deeper. By focusing on articulation and emphasizing groups of 4 notes starting on an upbeat, we can get some great results that have that sense of motion we're after. Now let's do one more exercise using just the scales. Now this time, we'll start off the third of each scale on the and of 2 and then run down using the rules. I think you're really going to like how this one sounds and feels. Check it out now. We can also investigate applying this sort of approach when playing pivot arpeggios. When we do a pivot, though, we're already taking advantage of that sense of forward motion by switching up the direction of the line on the upbeat. So in this exercise, we'll start our pivot on beat 2 from the third of each scale and then run down using the rules. Articulation is super important in this one, so make sure when you're learning it that you're paying attention to where I put the slur markings. Here's how it sounds. In the PDF for today's lesson, I've included a truckload of exercises like this for you to practice applying the scale rules when starting on different parts of the beat. When you're working your way through them, remember to treat these as springboards for improvisation. See where your ears want to take you once you've gotten the hang of playing the exercises as they're written. Up next, I want to show you guys how this all can come together when we're not trying to stick to such a rigid phrasing structure. Before we get to that though, I need to give a quick shout out to TRUEFIRE.com for supporting the channel. TRUEFIRE is an online lesson library that's host to literally thousands of courses on a wide range of musical topics from some really amazing artists and educators, including yours truly. If you're interested in improving your comping, make sure to check out my course, Exploring Melodic Jazz Comping, available on TRUEFIRE now. In this course, I'll demonstrate and break down 17 essential comping approaches using TRUEFIRE's interactive learning tools. We'll work on crafting more sophisticated comping parts using drop-two voicing, chord substitutions, approach chords, diminished concepts, and voice leading. We'll also dive into triadic approaches, partial chords, using scales as chords, and the art of borrowing notes and dominants. You'll learn how these melodic comping approaches can be artistically applied using backing tracks based on the changes to popular jazz standards like Autumn Leaves, There'll Never Be Another You, and All the Things You Are. The link to the course is in the description of this video. Now let's get back to the lesson and check out an etude over these changes to see how this can all come together in a way that's more reminiscent of what we might play at an improvised solo. In this etude, we're going to be focusing on implementing what I've shown you today, but the phrasing structure is going to be much less constrained. What I mean is, I really tried to make this one reminiscent of what I might play when I'm actually improvising over these changes. So while there are a lot of deliberate instances of using the scale rules and pivots off the beat, you'll also find other things that we've learned about in the past, like stock phrases, the 5-4-3-2 phrases, using the rules on the beat, and a little bit more space than you've seen in previous examples. I hope you guys enjoy this one. Here's the etude for you to take a listen to now. Thanks so much for sticking around all the way to the end of today's video. Now, let me know down in the comments what you guys thought of the lesson. I think this type of practice that's just as focused on rhythm and articulation as it is on harmonic content is super important. It's really easy to get stuck playing always off the downbeat and trying to play the hippest notes in the room all the time, but we can't forget that this music is really about interesting rhythms, and spending time practicing language from the upbeat is absolutely essential in that regard. As always, if you found today's lesson helpful, make sure you give the video a like, subscribe to the channel if you haven't done that yet, and hit that bell for notifications too. If you want to get access to the PDF for today's lesson, you can grab that, along with the whole back catalog for all the videos on the channel, for as little as $10 a month over at my Patreon page, or by just hitting the join button right here on YouTube. A special thanks goes out to Ron Maestas, Alf Collins, Juan Doming, Ruthenio Fiuza, and Carlos Fernandez for being studio fans. I really appreciate the support. An extra special thanks is due to these studio members for their support as well. Robert Cody, Robert Berlin, Harvey Perry, Al Mulraney, Bill Hallworth, Mike, Christian Cummins, Lambert, Taehyung Kim, Gregory Chu, Vaughn Davis, Nick Hess, Louis Maiden, Brendan Kelly, Stephen Moore, T. Colston, Ronin, Torino, Tom Gates, Andrew McBride, Aldo Fonseca, Nikita Sketchkov, Michael M., Jason Paul Dubois, Ron Askew, Lawrence Beer, Raymond DeGloro, James Seabury, Bruce Wood, Larry G., Bill Benfield, Benjamin Dockstader, Sean Lepore, Severus Guo, Paul George, Stephen White, Zalkai Zoltan, Apollos Gelivert, Justin Fisher, Melande Kaiser, Tyler Kosarek, David Wortman, Todd Stupnik, Zay Suarez, Guy Theobald, Arnie Sanchez, Louis Rosen, Stephen Prager, Aaron Walters, Skemster, Everton Armstrong, Stephen Schwartz, Max Irwin, Patrick Coron, David Zuckerbaron, and PH. An extra special shout out to Jazz Luminaire patrons Bill Jacob and Daniel Alvarenga. Thank you guys all so much for your continued support. I'm David Shore, and thanks again for hanging with me at the studio today. I'll see you guys next time.